Well, hello everyone. This is Robert from Black Belt Gaming. As many of you know, I'm a Dungeons & Dragons fan, and I do not participate in the edition wars because I simply like fantasy roleplay. And Dungeons & Dragons in all of its editions, to me, has something to offer. I have been showing you some of the content from the D&D Redbox starter set for 4th edition. But I want to show you another starter set that is very popular and is in print now, and it's called Pathfinder, the role-playing game. This is the beginner's box. I just received this. This version of Dungeons & Dragons is based on the 3rd edition or 3.5 edition of the rules. So if you just simply count the red box as being 4th edition, we're going back to 3rd edition, but in some ways, some people have referred to this as kind of a 3.75. It's kind of the 3.5 version of Dungeons & Dragons with additional modifications and revisions. And they've called it Pathfinder. So I'm going to open this up and share some of the contents with you from inside. Well, looking inside the box, we immediately see a full set of dice to use with the game. And these are what appear to be stands for some of the cardboard pieces that you can use to represent your character. Maybe even the monsters as well. We'll take a look together. This is the first thing in the box. It says before you go any further, you need to read this page, and it will help you go through the contents of this box. It looks like if you're on your own, then you can go through a solo adventure. And if you've got a group, then you've got some pre-made characters to start adventuring with right away. And if you're the one that's going to be the game master, there's another book for you. So let's take a look and see what the different books are. The Pathfinder Game Master's Guide is here. And just to give you an idea of the quality here, it's very, very nicely printed. Full color and a pretty good size font. So it should be pretty easy to read. This looks like it's taking you through an adventure. And I'm just sort of skipping ahead a little bit. I'm not going to go through every page here. But all sorts of rules regarding the environment. Looks like we have magic items here. Tells you the name of the magic item and its value. I guess whether it's a minor or a major. I guess I'll have to look at that and see what that's all about. And you got even a little bit of artwork there to give you an idea of what the different things are and what they look like. And then you've got your section with the monster, not monster manual. That's showing my age in D&D. We've got all sorts of monsters here with their with the Pathfinder version of their statistics. So you've got their name, and this CR can represent, I think it's challenge rating, something like that. And got a nice bit of artwork, and then you've got their statistics down here. In comparison to 4th edition, you'll see that some of the numbers tend to be much lower or smaller, especially things like hit points. like, for example, this Medusa here with 76 hit points. Probably if I looked up something equivalent, she'd have much more than that in 4th edition. So here we go. That's the Game Master's book. You've got your index right there in the back. And then here's a kind of a cute goblin showing off the different conditions that you can suffer, like poison and blinded and nauseated. And it gives you a description of how that affects your character or your foe if you happen to inflict a condition on an enemy. Well, this will be the book that most everyone will look through. This is the Hero's Handbook, and done in a similar fashion, full color, nice quality pages, and I believe this may be this. Yeah, this is the solo adventure. So this is a nice way to be introduced to the game. You've got even an example of play here to see how the regular game is played, and goes about through this part is about character creation, so that you can make your own characters, and it talks about the different races that come in this starter set, and the different classes and the different abilities that they have. And it looks like that in this beginner's box you can advance all the way to 5th level, which is actually a pretty high level. I guess in the regular game you go up to level 20, so going up 5 levels here with just this box is pretty nice. Most of the games that I tended to play over the years, going back to 3rd edition, I rarely saw a whole lot of action much higher than that. Most of my games tended to be lower level, and that's because I tended to play more online, and the games just simply moved slower. But I was a game master for some 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons games for several years at a time, running through some different stories. Well, here we have the different feats and equipment lists. Also, the nice artwork here continues. Very nice looking books. Going into combat. And one thing that jumped out at me immediately from this beginner set, and I actually want to applaud the decision, is that there are not attacks of opportunity. Those tricky things that happen when you're close by or near a creature or move by them and they get a free attack. Those are a big part of 4th edition, and they're a part of the regular Pathfinder game, but because of their complexity, they've been toned down in this game. So let's take a look, for example, here with a ranged attack. If you were to do a ranged attack near an enemy, very often that would provoke a free attack against you using the full rules. But here it just simply says that the enemy has to be at least 2 squares away. Nice and simple. So if they're right on top of you, you just don't have time to make an accurate ranged attack. And I believe they did something similar with spells. Concentration. It says if you're adjacent to an enemy, that enemy distracts you enough that you can't cast a spell. The exception is a spell that has you make a melee touch attack. So unless you're doing some sort of combat, close range magical spell that's meant to be used in a combat situation like that, then you just simply can't do it. It's too distracting and too dangerous for you to focus properly. And that's a nice and simple way to avoid a lot of extra die rolling and complicated feats and situations there to handle the opportunity attacks that can come up. So as a beginner box, they're trying to make this a little more newbie friendly, and I applaud them for doing that. And here's a glossary of terms and another nice index there. But very attractive books. Got a nice weight to them and very nicely printed. I'm impressed. As I go on in here into the box, these are your pre-generated characters, and it looks like they are following the 4 classic character types. You've got your fighter, and this fighter is fully statted and ready to go with a name and everything. Equipment and armor and all of that chosen. And then it just goes through how all of this works on the character sheet. So, you look at this and then you see over here and it tells you, section C, it tells you what it does. It tells you what you can do on your turn. And then it even gives you some character background. Very nice. This was something I wish that had been included in the starter set for the red box. Some pre-generated characters. As many of you know, I had to go online and track down some pre-generated characters to use for my video series. We have the rogue here. Again, done in a similar way. Also here focusing on some of the rogue class features. We have the wizard. And his information. I was just looking to see. Yeah, it's got his spells on there and exactly what they do. And then here's your cleric, and has some information there about the clerical spells. So very nice. You have a set of blank character sheets which you can write on or make copies of, I'm sure, so that you can create your own characters. They're front and back. And then the map. It's double-sided, and you can see already it's rather thick, and this is not going to tear easily. But let me show you right away that it's double-sided, and on this back side is a reusable surface. You can take a set of markers and draw your dungeons or encounter situations, whatever you want to do. Draw it on here with markers, and then you can erase it. You want to use the kind of markers, of course, what is that called? Well, the markers that you can write on there and erase it. So something that's meant to be permanent, I wouldn't want you to mess this up. So probably keep permanent markers away from this thing. But I actually have this, which I purchased separately. I don't have the map on this side, but I have this, and you turn it over and it's kind of the same blank mat, but it's gray color. And have found it very useful and very good. So this must be the map used in the adventure that comes with this game. All right, so that's nice value there. You've got something that you can use for a long time and reuse it and reuse it. One of the things I really liked about the Essentials line in the 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons was that I got some tokens. I didn't have to worry about just having hordes of miniatures. And I'm impressed to see that this Pathfinder Beginner's Box here has given us a nice set as well. And this is on a bit thicker cardboard and full color, and it tells you what it is. And these just will pop pop right out, and then you set them in the stand, and you can use them in your adventures. So this is not going to have something for every monster in the game, but I think it's got all the monsters that are in this beginner set. I'm assuming that's true, and that's great. So what did I look up before? A Medusa? Yeah, there's a Medusa right there. And I guess just in comparison, the 4th edition tended to focus on the face or just a small portion of the picture. You kind of get a full picture here, and that's nice. So there we go. Finally at the bottom, and I don't think there's anything underneath this, but just a something about a Pathfinder society. I can't tell you much about that. I am new to Pathfinder, so not new to Dungeons and Dragons by any means, but new to Pathfinder, yes. Looks like this is advertisement for getting the main rule book and some of the other monster books and setting books. So looks like good stuff. But I have to tell you, as much as I've enjoyed my Red Box adventures and using some of my Essentials line components for the Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition games I've been sharing with you, this looks really good, and looks like it might be a very fine game. So I'm going to jump into this and start sharing some of the content with you, just as I did with the Red Box for 4th edition. So I hope you will enjoy that. That's coming very soon. So thanks for listening to me tonight. This is Pathfinder role-playing game, beginner box, and it's in stores now.